Hey everyone, and welcome to our film studies series, where we break down scenes from films and discuss the techniques that were used. For this first episode, we're taking a look at a scene from The Conjuring 2, and are going to be focusing on two different camera techniques that happen in this one scene. But before we do that, let's get some context. So if you don't know anything about The Conjuring 2, it's about a young girl named Janet who believes she is experiencing demonic possession. So Ed and his wife Lorraine, who are paranormal investigators, are called in to figure out what's going on with her. In this specific scene, we'll just see Ed and Janet as he conducts an interview with her and try to hear from the spirit. So let's check it out and see those camera techniques that I mentioned. Now the first thing to notice is that Ed in the foreground is blurred out and Janet in the background is in focus. And that's going to suddenly change here in a second. So let's focus on Janet back here to see this change. Okay, so right there we just saw the focus change from Janet in the background to now Ed in the foreground. And whenever you see a shift in focus happen in one shot, like we see here, that's what's called a rack focus. Now this technique is used very often in films. It's very simple, so a lot of people don't even notice it anymore. But it is a very useful technique because it notifies the audience to look at something that is of importance in the shot. So very common, but very, very useful. This rack focus also sets up another technique called a shallow depth of field. So a shallow depth of field is when only the foreground is in focus and the mid and background are blurred out. So if we look here, Ed is the only one in focus. Everything else, including here, even back here where the window is, mid-ground over here, all of that is completely blurred out. Now the purpose of a shallow depth of field is to make the subject stand out from the mid and background, like we see here. But what's so clever about this specific scene and why I personally like it so much is that there are really two subjects in this shot. Ed in the foreground is in focus, but the audience still wants to see what's going on with Janet as the voice speaks from her. So they make sure that they use just the right amount of blur so we can still make out Janet in the background. So it's a pretty unique use of this popular technique. So today, we learned about the rack focus, which is the shift in focus from one object or person to another. And we learned about the shallow depth of field, where only the foreground can be in focus while the mid and background are blurred out. Thank you all for watching, and remember, you can catch our main show, the Nobody's Listening to This Movie podcast, every Friday on all podcast platforms, so don't miss it. If you like this video, please feel free to leave a like and comment down below what other scenes you'd like for us to break down. Until next time, thanks for watching.